The 2026.7 release of Home Assistant is here, and I've been looking at what we can all look forward to in this release. There's a significant milestone for Home Assistant this time around that will potentially change how you do things. So come with me as I take you through everything you need to know about this release before you go ahead and upgrade. Hey everyone, my name's Simon and welcome to Bite of Geek, a channel that's all about Home Assistant and smart home technology. So here we are then with the 2026.7 release of Home Assistant just about to be released, and with this, Home Assistant takes a significant step forward with a major update as well as many nice quality of life improvements along the way. As ever, there's also an awesome list of integrations to help you bring even more of your devices into your smart home, as well as more than a handful of breaking changes. I mention this in every update video that I do, but it's worth noting again that this is a beta release of Home Assistant, and as such it can be subject to change before the final release, with features potentially dropped or added at the last minute. I'll put a link to the release notes in the description of this video if you want to read about the update in more detail, but let's kick things off and have a look at what's in store for the July release of Home Assistant. So starting off with the new features then, and the big thing with this release is that purpose-specific triggers and conditions have now moved out of labs to now become the default way to create automations via the UI. This has been a massive project for the team, with them working on this for nearly 8 months, tweaking things and taking on board feedback from those of you who've been trying it out over all the different releases. For those of you who maybe haven't seen these previous update videos or aren't aware of what this is a whole new way of creating automations in Home Assistant. No longer do you need to think of an entity as a starting point in your automation and what state and trigger you might need, all alien concepts to anyone new to a smart home system. Now you can create automations how you think as a human being. Is there motion in your kitchen? Then turn on the lights. Or when the temperature drops below a threshold, then turn on the heating. And the bane of every automation, unavailable and unknown entity states. You don't need to worry about those anymore, as the automation building blocks takes care of them in the most appropriate way. It's a significant step for Home Assistant, but it's also important to point out here that if you still want to write automations in YAML, then that is absolutely fine. YAML isn't going anywhere. Nothing is changing in that regard, and everything will continue to work as it does now. This is for those users who prefer to use the UI, whether they're complete newbies or have been using it for months or even years. Those who maybe don't have a technical background or don't want to spend hours over a keyboard trying to get their lights to turn on and off with the sunset, but only when a motion sensor has detected someone in a room for more than 2 minutes. It's all part of Home Assistant being more accessible, and that's a good thing because everyone gets to benefit when that happens. And to go with this, there's also a massive amount of documentation to support it. And as the team have noted, for those that use AI to help them build automations, instead of the LLMs using outdated reference materials, by having this new documentation, then over time they will start to present the new way to do things. Along with changes to the automation editor then, we also have updates to the activity log. This has been completely rewritten, so whereas previously we had a bit of a cluttered view of things, lots of repeated information and ultimately not super clear, now we have a proper timeline view, which I think looks 100% better than before. Finally, for new features, and this one is probably more so for those of you that like to leave your updates and do them all in one session, well, now there is a new update all option. This will be displayed on a per section basis. So if you've got a load of updates for your Hacks integrations, then you'll get one option there. If you've got multiple updates for Home Assistant, then you'll also get one there as well. Obviously, you'll still be able to update them individually, but this is a nice change that just makes things a little easier. So overall then, although there's not a lot of new features in this release, certainly for those that have already been playing around with automations via the labs, that is, this is a significant update to Home Assistant for many new and existing users. Next up, and we have integrations, and these are a key area of Home Assistant that enable so many devices to interact in our smart homes. Every release there's something new or something that's changed, which makes it important to keep up to date with the latest updates each month. So make sure to hit like and subscribe so that you don't miss my next video. Starting things off then, and there's quite the mixed bag of new integrations this release. If you have a water well or tank that you're using an Aquify sensor with, then you can now bring that information into Home Assistant via the public cloud API. Just in time for the barbecue season, those with Chef IQ wireless cooking probes will now be able to read temperatures straight from them via Bluetooth. So no cloud or hub required, and therefore it's completely local. If you use Dropbox for general storage, then now you can use it for storing your Home Assistant backups there, as well as there's a new integration for that. And we're starting to see more infrared integrations coming on board since its addition to Home Assistant a couple of months ago. And this time we have Edifier speakers, which you can now use any IR transmitter you already have set up in Home Assistant to control them. If you have any energy laser devices such as electricity, gas, water and heating, then there's a new integration that will now read your consumption data via a local HTTP API. This keeps all the communication local to your own network. If you have an Envatec EVT 800 solar microinverter, then now you can monitor your energy and power readings right in Home Assistant and put this on dashboards and into your automations. Owners of a green cell EV charger can connect those to Home Assistant via MQTT, giving you access to some handy information such as charger status, voltage, current and power, as well as other details. If you use the Helty Flow heat recovery system, well, now you can control them with a new integration which communicates with each of the units completely local and without an internet connection. And just like with infrared, we're starting to see more RF integrations coming through, and there's a new integration for those with click on click out RF devices, which can now be controlled via Home Assistant. And finally, for new integrations, we have one for those of you who have Mitsubishi conditioning and heat pumps, as they can now be controlled and monitored in Home Assistant via the MEL Cloud Home integration. Those are the new integrations in this release, but as with every release, we've also got quite a few improvements to existing ones. I'm not going to go through them all. Instead, I'll just pick out some of the key ones, starting with one which I know many people will have been waiting for, and that is that SwitchBot Cloud can now upload images to the SwitchBot AI art frame. If you're a user of SMTP, then that has now gained new notify entities for a more modern approach to send those email notifications. Environment Canada now has a get alerts action, enabling you to get active weather alerts on demand. The Tesla Powerwall integration has been updated to support Powerwall 3, along with some new sensors for providing details on the operating mode and the maximum charge and discharge power. Those who have a droplet will no doubt be pleased to know that it will now report leak alerts. And if you're using the Whirlpool appliances integration for your oven, well, now there is a new button to enable you to stop the oven. Rabbit Air owners now have access to an air quality sensor, and if you're using Hypentech Kit, well, the Hypentech Cloud integration has now got new load, grid and battery sensors, so I'm sure that's going to be super useful for you. The Vista Pool integration has had a big update with button, number, light and binary sensors all being added for your pool controller. And finally, Fluss Plus now supports covers, which are things like gates and garage doors. That's just some of the many integrations that have had updates this month, but if you want to read up on the full list of improvements, then don't forget to check out the link in the description of this video. This release, we've got just a handful of integrations moving up the quality scale. So starting off, we have Yotu, which has now reached platinum level. We've got 2 integrations moving to gold, and they are Anthropic and GrowArt. Moving to silver, we have 3 integrations, Open EVSE, OVH Cloud AI endpoints, and finally Splunk. And finally, we have 1 integration that moves to bronze, and that is Open Sense Map. I think it's great to see the effort being recognised by those who are building and maintaining these integrations for us all to use. And if you do too, then don't forget to hit the like button down below. It's also worth pointing out that there are several integrations that have been removed in this release for one reason or another. Usually this is because they're no longer supported or a service has been discontinued. So if you're using one of these, then you may need to look out for an alternate approach. So those that have been removed are Acer Projector, Ampio Smog, Avion, BY SmartClim, LEIQ Online, MS Teams, SCS Gate, TicTec and Unify LED. There's some great improvements across the board with the notable changes this month, and we start with timers. And if you have one that's currently running, then now you can change the duration of it without having to stop and then restart it. And there should also be some noticeable performance improvements on the front end side of things, especially in the energy, history and statistics graphs. The device and area pages have also been updated to a new responsive column layout, with the device page listing the main entities at the top. And the scene editor has had a subtle but welcome change, as the entity rows now show their type and the integration they belong to, similar to what we've seen implemented elsewhere. There's a nice update to the App Store, so now when you're looking to add a new app, you'll now see those that you've already got installed, or maybe they've already been deprecated. And the statistics graph card apparently has a sub-editor. There isn't much detail on this one, and I can't actually notice any difference between my live instance and my demo one, but maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Following previous feedback from the community, conditions now have clearer status icons for live testing, and a subtle change to the States tab in Developer Tools, so now you can hide the device and area columns. Next, and this is a nice improvement if you've got any Matter soil moisture sensors, well, they now show up in Home Assistant. And if you've got a projector, well, you'll be pleased to know that those devices now have their own proper class for media players. If you're building template lights, then now you can do so with full XY color support. If you're using Google Assistant and you've got a robot vacuum, well, now you can ask it to send the robot to clean a specific room. For those of you running on a Raspberry Pi, there's a nice addition in this release, as now you have a new firmware update entity, so you can update it directly from Home Assistant. And along with the UI performance improvements mentioned earlier, we also have performance improvements for templates, which have had a significant optimization to render them up to 40% faster. And finally, if you're debugging an automation or one of your scripts, then now the trace will always include template errors, so it should hopefully make it easier for you to spot what has gone wrong. In addition to these changes, we also have further UI changes, the first of which is for timestamps, and whilst you could do all of the magic of how they were formatted in YAML, the front end didn't give you that ability. That's now changed with this release. With the recent addition of infrared and radio frequency to Home Assistant, there's now 2 new panels in the settings for those communication protocols, so they now sit alongside things like Matter, Zigbee and Z-Wave. And the last of the UI changes are with the Zigbee device management via ZHA, with this now having a dedicated full page view of things with proper tabbed navigation layout, which should hopefully make it a nicer place to work in. Now, there are quite a few items listed under the breaking changes for this release, some of which I'm sure will affect several people. So we'll jump straight in starting with purpose-specific triggers and conditions, which has had some updates to make entity triggers and conditions a bit more consistent across domains. So for example, battery low is now battery became low, battery not low is now battery no longer low, lawnmower docked is now lawnmower return to dock, and you kind of get the idea. For conditions, climate target humidity is now climate is target humidity, and climate target temperature is now climate is target temperature. So when you update, it's worth checking your scripts and automations for these changes, as they won't work until you update them, which you can do via the UI by just reselecting the updated trigger or condition and then resaving it. Next, and we have a change for BSB LAN, and with this the integration is reducing its support for the version 1 of the API. So if you have any devices running the older firmware that only talks to the older API, then you are advised to update it to a newer firmware version that supports version 2 of the API. The iCloud integration has had the battery level attribute removed from the device tracker entities, and therefore you should use the dedicated battery sensor in your automations instead. Person entities will no longer report the latitude and longitude of the home zone, so if you're using those to track the coordinates of a person, then you should use the in zones state attribute instead. If you're using Rabbit Air with scripts and automations, then the fan preset mode values have had their casing changed to lowercase, which kind of brings them in line with the general Home Assistant state convention, and therefore you'll need to update those where required. If you're using a Reolink Duo PoE or Duo Wi-Fi, then there is a change to the integration in that it now exposes a sub-device per lens. So entities that might have had a lens 0 or 1 suffix will now lose that. However, entity IDs and any custom names will stay as they are. So most automations should continue to function, but it's worth checking this just in case. If you're using the battery level attribute in the Starline device tracker entities, well, that has now been removed and you should use the dedicated battery sensor instead. For both the Tesla fleet and telemetry integrations, the route device tracker will no longer report the active route's destination name in the state. Instead, they will get this from the zones just like a regular device tracker, so you'll get home, not home, or the zone's name. If you relied on that information, then you can still access it via a new destination sensor, which you'll need to enable as it's disabled by default. Tractive is another integration that has had the battery level attribute removed from the device tracker entities. So like the other integrations that have had this update, you should use the dedicated battery sensor instead. In ZeroConf, the requires API password field has now been removed, as this has been hard-coded as true for a while, and this is now no longer required. If you've got automations for person zoning, then this next change may affect you depending on how those automations are written. So basically, if you have an inner and outer zone around your home, let's call them home and near home, and you were sat on the sofa in your home, then previously that would have been classed as you being in just one of them. Now, with this change, due to those overlapping zones, you'll now be classed as being in all of them. And for device trackers, previously it would have favoured the centre of the zone that was nearest, whereas now it will be the zone that you're in that is the smallest. And finally, Z-Wave JS requires an updated Z-Wave JS server. So if you're running a container or your own server, then you'll need to update to Z-Wave JS server 3.9.0 or newer. So that's it. That's what we currently have in store for the 2026.7 release of Home Assistant. Great to see the automations moving out of labs to become the standard approach, as well as some nice tweaks here and there. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in this release? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss more Home Assistant updates like this, as well as all the other smart home content that I create on the channel. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.